You know that rear view mirror in your car? It's just a small piece of glass, right? But it's absolutely essential. You literally can't move forward safely without knowing what's behind you. Well, in a lot of ways, the Book of Chronicles was exactly that for the nation of Israel, a crucial look back so they could finally move forward. Let's get into it.
See, a lot of people tend to skip over Chronicles. They think, haven't I already read all this in the books of Samuel and Kings? And yeah, you kind of have, but that's missing the whole point. Chronicles isn't just a repeat. It's a powerful retelling of history, specifically reshaped for an audience that was facing a total, complete crisis.
To really get this book, you have to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine, for 70 years, your people have been captives in a foreign land, Babylon. Your home city, Jerusalem, is a pile of rubble. And the temple, the very heart of your faith and your world, it's gone. Now, you're finally allowed to go back. But what are you even returning to?
I mean, talk about an identity crisis. Everything that defined you, your country, your king, your sacred temple, was wiped out. You'd be asking some pretty desperate questions, right? Like, is God even still with us? Are we still his people? After all of this failure, do we even have a future? They desperately needed an answer. They needed hope, and they needed it fast. And that's where the Book of Chronicles comes in. It wasn't just some boring history text. No way. It was a direct answer to that crisis. It was a roadmap for renewal, carefully written to heal a community by reminding them exactly who they were, and more importantly, who God has always been. Let's break down the who, what, when, where, and why. So check out this timeline. The stories in Chronicles, like about King David and Solomon, happened way back around 1000 BC. But the book itself, it was written over 500 years later, sometime in the 400s BC. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't a live news report. This is a deep, historical reflection written with the, let's say, the pain and the wisdom of hindsight.
Okay, so here are the basics. Who wrote it? Tradition points straight to a guy named Ezra, a priest and a scribe, basically a top leader during this whole rebuilding phase. When and where? Right there in Jerusalem after the return from exile. But the biggest question is, why? And the reason is so clear. It was written to give the people back their spiritual identity and to light a fire of hope when things looked incredibly bleak.
So you might be wondering, okay, but if they already had the books of Kings, why write another version of the same history? That's the key question. It's because the author of Chronicles, we'll just call him the chronicler, was asking a totally different question. They cover the same history, but their perspectives, worlds apart. Think of it this way. The Book of Kings reads like a political history. It's focused on the throne, the kings, and all the mistakes that led to the nation getting exiled. It answers the question, why did this horrible thing happen to us? But Chronicles, it's a theological history. Its focus isn't the palace, it's the temple. It's all about worship. And its question isn't looking back and blame, it's looking forward with hope. Okay, we're back. Now what? How do we rebuild and get this right?
And here's a really cool piece of trivia that proves the point. When the Hebrew Bible was later translated into Greek, they didn't call it Chronicles. They called it Paraliponemon. That's a mouthful, I know. But it means the things left out. Isn't that perfect? They saw it as a vital supplement, filling in the spiritual and priestly details that the other histories just didn't cover. It completes the picture.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly were the key messages the chronicler was trying to drill into the minds of this fragile, hopeful community? Well, he basically built his entire story around three main ideas, a blueprint for a new start. First up, he had to remind them who they were, and that's why the book kicks off with 9 chapters of genealogies. Now, I know what you're thinking, genealogies, really? But for them, this was everything. Tracing their family trees all the way back to Adam, and especially to Abraham, was the chronicler's way of shouting, hey, you are not forgotten, you are still God's people, part of a sacred story that goes back to the very beginning. Second, it was all about the temple. The author zooms in on the stories of the good kings, guys like David, Hezekiah, Josiah, leaders who made it their mission to get worship right. The message couldn't be clearer. If you want to succeed as a nation, if you want to even exist, then you have to put the true worship of God at the absolute center of everything you do, period.
And third, they needed hope badly. So what does the chronicler do? He creates a highlight reel of Israel's greatest hits. He focuses on the glory of David's kingdom and the splendor of Solomon's temple. And yeah, he intentionally leaves out some of their biggest mistakes. Now, he wasn't trying to lie or hide the truth. He was trying to show them what they were capable of when they were faithful. It was a reminder of God's power to restore things to glory. And woven through this whole epic story is one super clear theme. You could almost call it a spiritual law of cause and effect. Over and over, the chronicler shows that when the people and their leaders obey God, they are blessed. When they turn away from Him, disaster follows. For a generation trying to start over, you can't get a more vital or straightforward lesson than that.
Okay, so that's a fascinating history lesson, but why should it matter to us today, thousands of years later? Well, because buried in this ancient story are these timeless truths about what it means to lead, what it takes to rebuild a community, and what renewal really looks like. Chronicles actually gives us an amazing template for leadership.
So what does that look like? Step 1, seek God first. Real success isn't about power or strategy. It starts by putting God first. Step 2, lead with humility. The strongest leaders are the ones who can admit when they're wrong and repent. Step 3, restore what is broken. A leader's job is to be a repair person, to see what's wrong in the community and work to make it right. And finally, step 4, serve the community. Leadership isn't about building your own little kingdom. It's about building up everyone around you.
And that brings us right back to where we started, looking in that rearview mirror. The Book of Chronicles was written because a nation needed to understand its past to have any hope for its future. It taught them everything depended on learning the right lessons from their history. So it leaves us with a pretty powerful question for our own lives, doesn't it? As we look back at our own past, our own wins and losses, what's the one lesson we need to carry with us to build a better future?